of schools and parks are used to quote unquote spur investment in so-called blighted areas. And so we've seen consistent abuses, to be perfectly frank about it, over the years. And while we are closing schools for reasons associated with financial inequities or irregularities or lacks and disparities. So tell us what, where you stand on the issue of TIF financing as it affects the, as it impacts the operation of public, these public institutions, is the word I was looking for, in your district. We're going to start with Ms. Saeed.
Tax incremental financing is when you have a tax level that you're collecting taxes at. But because of certain improvements that happened in a community, they happen to collect more than you thought you would collect. That extra is the tax incremental financing, the TIF. And what we do is we say, okay, blighted areas, areas that couldn't have gotten better without extra support, will get that extra money. What's been happening, unfortunately, it is not going to areas that need it. It's going to funds development and to fund other areas that would have done great even without it. And that's the problem. I suggest a full study of where TIFs have been spent, how they've been collected, and how we can do better by ensuring the places that TIF is spent are places that wouldn't have gotten a chance to get better anyway. For example, 4 schools are slated to be closed in Englewood right now. One of them is in our district, Team Englewood. What I suggest we do is keep Harper School open, which is one of the 4 schools for sure, and put some TIF funding into Harper School. Make it a school that is then got special training, maybe an area that's doing tech training or vocational training, and that can be where the TIF monies are spent for Harper. So one use at a local level of something we're trying to do across the state. That makes that a good use of TIF.
Thank you. And Mr. Robinson.
If TIF being used correctly is extremely important. As someone that serves on the Greater Englewood CDC, or Quad Community Development Corporation, TIF is needed to shore up areas of blight. I have worked with both community organizations to put TIF into the hands of small business owners, to be able to expand their businesses, to be able to reinvest in their businesses, to be able to create more jobs. But we all know that there are some transparency issues with TIF, and we need to make sure that we know where our TIF dollars are going. I will say that there are certain areas where they have overfunded TIFs. And when you have a surplus, those funds need to be put back into our Chicago public schools. Schools that have been underfunded. That has happened in the 3rd Ward. The TIF surplus has been put back into our schools. And we need to do this across the city of Chicago. If, again, there is surplus in the TIFs, they need to go back into our neighborhood schools. That's extremely important. But we also need transparency, because TIF dollars can revitalize corridors that need it, like 51st Street, or 79th Street, or 63rd Street. Areas in the community that need an economic development jolt.
Look at that, we completely agree.
Point of clarification, were you saying that wasn't the 3rd Ward where the 55 million was ported to the DePaul Stadium?
Yes, but also, Dr. Davis, the TIF surplus was put back into our neighborhood schools.
But not that 55 million.
Not 55 million, but
Okay.
the TIF surplus was put back into our neighborhood schools. And so, and so again,
Where did that come from?
if there is surplus within the TIF, they should be going back into our neighborhood schools.
Understood.
That's extremely important.
Understood. And so we have time for our closing statements. Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Bullock, you got me all upset here. Okay.
So, TIP only works if these funds are actually being implemented in the areas where they should, right? So for me, this goes back to holding our elected officials accountable. We have to speak up. We have to, when things aren't right, when we know that there's money that could have gone into our public school system that are being spent on other things, we have to stand up and we have to, speak out for what's right. And especially when we always want to come back to that our schools are underfunded. But if we have this money that we can be using for the schools, that's just not, it's just ridiculous. So we should be upset about this, and we should be holding our elected officials accountable.
Thank you. I want to just survey the room if there's one last question before we come to our closing statements for the evening. Sir?
Yes.
All right, so he beat you out,
Okay.
but y'all want to confer on that, or y'all good?
So what was the purpose of us giving you the cards if you didn't answer the questions on the cards?
I took all of the questions on the cards that weren't already answered. Was there a particular question that you
Yes,
wanted to put forward?
Party line, are you voting with the speaker on everything? Why are we on Independence with that?
I did ask that question.
I didn't hear anyone say that they would.
Well, the answers are the answers, but the question was asked, as I've said. Sir?
Hi, my question is, we ask it every day on our show. What's in it for the black
What
people?
show?
The WBON morning show.
Okay.
We ask every morning, what's in it for the black people? I see 3 candidates sitting here. Illinois leads.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Let's get a microphone to you, please, because folks can't hear you.
Hi, my name is Mace Jackson. I am the host of the WBON morning show. We ask every single day, what is in it for the black people? Black people are at the last 16 economic indicators here in the state of Illinois. We have the highest black unemployment in the state, in the country. It is the worst state. There's six of the 10 worst cities in the nation are in Illinois for black people. So we want to know today from these candidates who will be representing black people, what's in it for the black people? From your candidates.
And for this sequence, we'll go to, I think we're going to Mr. Robinson.
Thank you for that question. I knew it was coming. Contracts, jobs, being able to be at the table, being able to go to Springfield, and when contracts are given, making sure that we get our due share, to fight it tooth and nail until we make sure that we are getting our due process. That is something that I will do as the next state rep in the 5th District, to make sure that there are teeth in legislation when we are doling out money on contracts, that there are people, compliance officers, that make sure that if we are giving grants to organizations that are building and they're supposed to have African Americans at that job site, that they do have African Americans at that job site. We need compliance officers to be able to do this. That is something that I will make sure that gets done as the next state rep in the 5th District. That is what is in for the black people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bullock, please.
For me, I have a vested interest in this. Obviously, we all live in the district, but I live in the district. My husband and I want to raise our family in this district. So when I think about what's best for the community in the district, I'm thinking about a place to raise my children, my Black children. So for me, it goes back to my platform. I want to make sure that our schools in the community are funded so that I'm not trying to move to the suburbs or ship my kids off to some school that's 20 minutes away. I want quality schools in the district. I want access to quality health care and healthcare related programs as well. I want to take care of our seniors. There were programs that Governor Rauner cut that were taking care of our seniors, in-home care for our seniors. There was a suggestion made that we should put our seniors in an Uber to get to their appointments. I want to take care of our seniors. And public safety is an important one for me. Obviously, when I think about a community that I want to raise my kids in, I want it to be safe. We need to fund our after-school programs. Kids won't get into nonsense when they have somewhere to go after school. And so that's what's in it for the Black people.
Thank you.
What's-
Anissa. Yes.
What's in it for Black people? Number one is education. In this city, your zip code determines the kind of quality education that you will have. And the Black zip codes on the South Side do not get the best funding, do not get the best teachers, and do not get the best programs. I've been working for 10 years in the district in the South to try to get the best funding, the best programs, and the best teachers into this district in the zip codes where African American communities live so that they can improve. Number two, it's public safety. Gun violence in the south side of Chicago and in the west side of Chicago, so I'll focus on the south side where our district is one of the highest in the country. That has to shift, and I will be a state representative that is unafraid, unbought, and unbossed, willing to go down there and stand up and say we need these laws. And number three, we must have jobs. You talked about the highest unemployment rate. There are certain parts of this district where the unemployment rate is between 50 and 75% for African American men. The best way to stop a bullet is with a job. So you make sure people have jobs, that they can live here safely, that they can work here, that they can play here. And then what you've got is communities that families want to move into, Black families that are leaving the state want to move into and stay in the state and in our district. That's what's in it for Black families.
And
Dr.
so
Dr.
we,
Davis, can I make a point of clarification?
yes, sir.
I do not want the residents of the room to leave here thinking that there are schools in the district that there are not. Dulles, Team Inglewood, Harper are not in the district. So we want to make sure we're educating the residents here, and we need to make sure when we're talking about schools that we know that schools are in the district and what schools are not in the district. Team Inglewood is not in the district. Harper is not in the district. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we're going to move to our closing statements. Thank you, audience, for listening in a very engaged way. Thank you, candidates, for bringing your best to the table and sharing. I think you can see we have three unique, distinct candidates, some good breadth for you to choose from, and we will have our closing statements, starting with Mr. Robinson.
Thank you for this opportunity. As I started out, as someone that is an educator who has helped people start businesses, someone that runs a nonprofit for African American boys to understand what opportunities they have before them, to be able to reach for the stars, someone who is a small business owner that has created jobs in the community, someone that has been fighting for the issues and the concerns of the residents of the 5th District. These are all things that I'm currently doing, not that I am going to do. You need to elect a state representative that has already been working in the community, that does not work for an institution that does not care about the community. Someone that has not just recently moved into the community. Someone that has planted seeds in the community, that understands where the schools are in the district, the concerns of the district, the cries of the district. That is Lamont Robinson. I am going to Springfield with your support to be able to hear your concerns, be able to address them. And just like I said last night, if I have fallen short, I will not be back 2 years from now. I am here, like I always have been, to support the community. I'm very thankful for the support I have, but again, that support does not tie me to making sure that I make you proud, my mother proud, and the African American males that I have mentored for the last 6 years proud. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Said.
A few weeks ago, I knocked on the door and a voice inside said, you can come in, but I'm not going to come to the door. It was James. I spent 10 minutes understanding that James had worked all his life and was ill and was retired. He was worried about his pension. He was worried about his health. He was worried about his kids who were Black men and women. I'm raising a son. His name is Sajid, and when he goes out, my heart is in my throat. Sajid is brown, and his last name is Said. We live in a city, in a state, and in a country that's growing in its divisions, in wealth, in the way people see each other, in the way we are continuing to talk to each other. One of the things that's coming out of a Trump presidency and a Rauner governorship is actually collaboration, coalitions, people who've been at different places in the state coming together, in the city and in this country, coming together to work together. What we need right now are bridge builders. I understand what it feels like to be poor and to come from a family that struggled. I also understand what it feels like to have worked your life, built a life, and wanting to secure a retirement that's strong. I understand what it feels like to be a woman of color, where just last week I walked into a store and I was ignored. And I understand what it looks like to be passed over for a job because of the way I do my hair or the color of my skin. But the silver lining is how we've come together over the last year. With the travel ban, with Charlottesville, with the violence, we are coming together as a community. And this is the silver lining. These are the kind of people we want at the state level. Collaborators and those who will build bridges. I look forward to working for you at the state.
Thank you, Ms. Said. Ms. Bullock, bring us on home.
So I just want to first thank everyone for coming out and thank the League of Black Women for putting this together. I think that this event, both last night and today, were great events, and I think that the work that they're doing is extremely important. Black women just face issues that are unique. You know, we have issues, socioeconomic issues, we have issues, you know, with pay, we have issues with how the violence in our communities affects us as wives and mothers and sisters and daughters. So I just really admire the work that these women are doing, and I want to thank you for putting this together. But, you know, to close this out, I've been very open about this entire process. This has been a whirlwind for me. It was always my dream to run for office. And it's been an experience, a learning experience. It's been a lot of peaks and valleys. The main peak being people. The people in the 5th District are some of the best people that I've ever met. Kind, offer to help me, pray for me. Some of the best people that I've met in my life, I've met through this process. And that has truly been a blessing. But it's also been eye-opening to see some of the valleys, some of the things that we discussed tonight, to see that only the women were challenged who filed to get on the ballot. And that just, to me, proves how far women have to go, both in this arena and in others. And also, you know, to have our elected officials ask people to withdraw, try to push people out of the race, for me, that's just unacceptable. That's not what democracy is about. You all, the voters, should decide who wins this race. And I'm gonna keep fighting to make sure that you guys are able to make that decision. And that is why I'm here asking for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Don't you just love democracy? A round of applause for these candidates. Don't you just love it? No matter which candidate seems to reflect your self-interest or which qualities seem to be shining for you, it takes cojones to get out here on the campaign trail. And so I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for your commitment to the opportunity to serve. And once again, I want to thank the League of Black Women. I want to thank our host tonight, Adler University. It's a good feeling to know that we can have a more just society working together, again, across the bounds of race and class. The 5th District, like America, it has very different people and places.